That was Devo with Uncontrollable Urge. Welcome to the weekly Truth Pill with myself, Chuck, and my
Partner in crime, Liam.
Liam. How are you this morning, Liam?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Quite moved by some of the events last night. So, if you'd like to take it away and tell the audience exactly what this episode will be centered around.
Sure, I'd love to. So last night, me and Ian went to Alcoholics Anonymous to really see what it was about and get a better understanding of alcoholism and the support network, which is AA. And so me and Ian we went to a meeting in Surrey Hills at 6 o'clock, and we sat in for the hour, and it was a really eye-opening experience, I must say, and I felt pretty humbled by it.
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
did you think, Ian?
Well, so interestingly enough, this was actually a gay and lesbian AA meeting, catering to gay and lesbians. And there are actually heaps of all kinds of AA meetings. There's ones for youth, and there's ones for, drugs, and obviously ones for gay and lesbians. And it was really interesting because they happen every day, several times a day, and all over Sydney. So it was actually a lot bigger than we thought it would be, or thought it could be. So that was the first interesting thing. And it's really amazing because it's just open doors. You get the address, you look it up, and you walk in, and it's open doors, and there's a bunch of people sitting in the room, and they're really varied, like all kinds of people.
Yeah, the demographic really ranged from young people, old people, people in suits, just, averagely just people. It was really everyone, rich, young, corporate, non-corporate, homeless. And this was a queer group, so I guess that kind of changed the vibe of it, which I guess made it more open, I felt, in a way. And then, so basically how it works is members go around and tell their stories of issues they've been having in, the last week, or like how their sobriety's going, or anything really that's been on their mind. And that really, I thought that was really positive because so many people were sharing some really inspiring stories of just things they'd gone through recently, and also they also showed so much gratitude, I found, just for just for the little things in life, because from their sobriety they've been able to just enjoy like a nice spring day, and I thought that was really inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. And just I just want to clarify, because I was actually, after the meeting, I was talking to a couple of mates about it, and they did not really understand at all. Like, they couldn't really grasp it, and they were quite against AA, I suppose, or something that they wouldn't want to be interested in or try out. But it isn't, I expected to go in and someone to say, "Oh, I got so drunk last night, I killed my cat," or something, and then the next person would say, "Yeah, my life absolutely sucks and it's terrible." But it wasn't like that. It was people just talking about how they're going. And a lot of people there were actually sober for a very, very long time, and their lives were getting on track. And it was just asking people how they were going. Like, we didn't hear any stories about, I was so drunk I did this, that, or the other. But it was just about, moving through day by day and picking yourself up and taking care of your mental health. And it was really it was more like a conversation and talking about, the state you're in, as opposed to talking about your alcoholism.
Yeah, I found that as well, actually. It was just about what you were going through with your mental processes, how you were seeing life from day to day, and the issues that were presenting themselves. And I guess for anyone that went, like me and Ian, we both resonated with that because of our own issues with like mental difficulties. So even though it was for alcoholics, like, it didn't feel like it was necessarily about alcoholism, even though that was their disease. It was about just the struggles that go on in your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was actually asked to speak, and I was actually very honest with, I guess my position about things and how I feel about myself and life and all that. And I did sort of, hint that it was about alcohol, when in reality I'm not really an alcoholic at all. But the fact that it didn't really matter that it was alcohol, it was just about how you're coping with your own struggle. It meant that I was able to, converse and relate, and everyone's stories really resonated with me And my story, I guess, resonated with a lot of people because it wasn't so much about the alcohol. It was about a support network and people who just want the best for you. That's what it was about.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely was people who want the best for each other and have just a really deep sense of empathy for whatever anyone's going through. I mean, some people. I think there was one man there who first had his first time at AA. He'd come off the streets. He was living homeless,
Yes, correct.
and now he'd moved into an apartment, had a partner, and things were going well. So it was just so inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. And there were people who'd been, sober for, ages, and they were saying that AA still kept them going. Like, they were still going very regularly to the meetings, to, keep themselves in order and keep their lives in check because it was that therapeutic for them, even though alcoholism wasn't a problem for them anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Before we continue, I just want to tell the listeners the text line because we're interested to hear your opinion today on Alcoholics Anonymous or alcoholism. And the text number is 0448856416 and the phone line is 0291140902. Yeah, it is very therapeutic, and I feel that that kind of space is so important for people with addictions or mental issues. And I think just society doesn't have that space for a lot of little, different issues. Where I guess maybe it does, and I haven't been to them, but I don't think that they really exist at university so much for people with addictions or anxiety issues, depression issues, and that kind of thing. So when you get into that environment, and this is how I felt, I was like, oh wow, like I felt, wow, there's like so many people with real issues here. Like I'm not alone. Like everyone's got shit going on. There's no facade, as opposed to how the rest of the day normally is at work and at university. So, in that sense, it was really nice. They were so friendly, just to like each other and us afterwards. Because after the meeting finished, everyone kind of stands around, talks to each other, introduces each other, and it's all positive. It's all like unconditional positivity and love.
Yeah. It's unbelievably nice. Like these strangers were nicer to me than people who I'd be very close with. It was really amazing. Like one guy, was like, oh, I can really relate to how you're feeling. Here's my number if you ever want to talk about anything. And people were just that open, and really encouraging of not only you joining the program, but you, I guess, getting yourself together. And much in contrast to Scientology last week, they didn't, want anything from you. You could, put coins in the basket at the end, but you didn't have to. And it was really not much money, and you didn't even have to. So it wasn't about the money, and it wasn't about, getting anything from you, and the meetings aren't mandatory or anything like that. Of course, the irony is that the same sorts of people would want to seek out Scientology as well as AA, like people in a bad mental place.
Yeah, there's really the polar opposite of Scientology, isn't it? Right on the other end of the spectrum. Because here it's free and everyone wants to help you. As Scientology is like, we pretend we want to help you, but we just want your money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're so, like the people at Scientology seem so fake now,
Yeah.
Like it kind of made me angry thinking of Scientology after going to that place last night, just to see what they fucking do to people and how they just brainwash you.
Yeah.
And they're just so full of bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, if anyone's listening in and is facing any mental health problems, I can understand that, seeing a counselor or getting a referral from your doctor, it can be very full on to admit you have that much of a problem and talk one-on-one. And, doctors especially can be quite intimidating to, deal with it. But I would actually really recommend going to something like an AA meeting because it's very low-key. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to, if you're not ready. And it can be quite therapeutic.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's free.
It's free as well, and there's people you can just talk to there as well. Yeah, it's really nice. And at the end of the meeting, everyone stands up and holds hands together and gives a prayer to God, but not really the Christian sense of God, just your own God.
Yeah.
Kind of admitting that there's a higher power.
In fact, they do specify that it's God as you understand it.
Yes,
is the words they use.
That's the words they used. Yeah, and I remember the actual 12 steps of the program, they were on the wall, and most of the steps were about just kind of giving into the higher power of your own God, and just, you know, having faith in that to help you get through it. So it has a very large spiritual component.
Yeah, yeah, it absolutely does, and I can understand that. I mean, I've never been religious, and you know, never really understood it. But I think this would be the biggest step I took to understanding it. You know, watching these people and sort of understanding how they can keep going, just believing that there's, you know, like a lot of them would say, you know, it's by the grace of God that I could stay sober, or some of them would say, you know, I definitely had someone watching over me, or just stuff like that, and you know, the fact that they can use that to help them get through things, I think that really was the most open to religion my eyes had ever been.
Yeah, I can relate to that as well. It was there was no actual normal stereotypical religious kind of propaganda, but that's not really the right word going on. But it felt deeply religious.
It did, yeah, yeah, in a weird way, and you know, it's ironic because this was a gay and lesbian meetup, so it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't like a strictly, like, no one there was strictly religious in any way. I mean, or they might have been, but it didn't show. So I don't think it's about religion per se, but about just optimism.
Yeah, optimism. Yeah, and so it's about something bigger than you, I think.
Absolutely,
as
yeah.
well. I think that's just an important aspect in becoming sober and using the 12 steps and just going to those meetings.
Yeah, and I think that there can be like a lot of ignorance going on. I said to one of my friends, you know, I was explaining it, and then he said, "Oh, you know, like I think that's all kind of BS, and I think a little bit of willpower can go a long way." And I just thought that was like, you know, that was kind of a very ignorant thing to say.
That's going to be a common response, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
For
And you know,
sure.
before we went, we had no idea what AA
Yeah,
was about.
yeah. Yeah, that's why I think if you're skeptical of it and you think it's bullshit and it's for people who, you know, I don't even know what you think, like, that it doesn't work. I think you should go and check it out, because I think it does help a lot of people. Most definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, some people probably, you know, go and they get, you know, they fall back into alcoholism or addiction, and it doesn't do much, but it definitely helps some people.
Yeah, absolutely. And another response that I got a lot was, you know, I would feel uncomfortable listening to people talk about their fucked up life. But, you know, it wasn't like that at all. It really wasn't like, you know, what's your most gruesome experience? It was just, how are you going?
Yeah,
That was all it was.
It's really not you try and tell your worst thing, then the next person tries to tell their worst thing.
Yeah.
It's just telling. It's just about whatever's, you know, bothering you, and it's like the scale is so different for each person, but that doesn't matter there, because it's just how you feel, you know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Because like someone can, you know, be like on the surface have everything going well for them, like great job, great family, great house, etc. But in their mind, if they feel shit, they feel shit.
Yeah.
That doesn't change like a thing. So all that really matters is your mental state, and that was kind of made evident here in how the community understood that it felt and just supported you for whatever you were feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I felt almost embarrassed when I was, you know, asked to speak, because I felt like my problems were quite minimal compared to a lot of people. But when I started talking, I received like a lot of friendly faces, a lot of smiles, and people coming up to me afterwards saying, you know, I know what you're going through, even though that person, you know, had been homeless or something else. You know, it wasn't about the state you're in or how lucky you are, how privileged you are. It was just about how your mental state is and how you can work past that.
Yeah, a lot of 'cause I think a lot of it's just it's a validation of your feelings,
Yeah.
which that can be not present, you know, in your normal life, because people can have a tendency to be like, "Oh, mate, you're fine." Like,
Yeah,
what are you
absolutely.
talking about? Like, you know, you're going to uni, you got good grades, blah blah blah. But a lot of people just don't actually validate others' feelings. Like, if you're feeling shit, you should just tell someone, "Oh, that's normal. That's fine."
Yeah.
And that's what this group did.
Yeah.
You know, it validates what you're feeling. So yeah, it was a really positive experience. I still feel really humbled today.
Yeah, it was actually really, really great. And once again, I would recommend, if anyone is going, you know, through a rough patch in their life, to go to one of the meetings. It could help you a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was interesting. I noticed on the wall they had a lot of other posters for other meetings as well, which I'm sure would be just as
I mean,
beneficial.
it's a very large network. Like they even have their own parties, you know, which are alcohol free, and they have, you know, and they seem like a lot of fun, you know, like Halloween dress up, that sort of stuff. And they have a lot of different sorts of societies, and they even had a retreat, an AA retreat, where you go, and you know, someone made an announcement at the end, like, you know, watch this space sort of thing, where they all go away and just like hang out, and I guess, you know, just console each other, and that was also really nice. Like, it wasn't just the meetings; there was a huge community that existed that you could join very easily outside of the meetings.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's really good for them. We've got a text in here from Anonymous. I'll read it out. Don't you think externalizing your problems by saying only a higher power, something other than yourself, can help you is a bit counterproductive? That doesn't really equip you with the personal skills needed to deal with your issues. I think the texter is kind of taking that angle that it means
A little bit of willpower can go a long way.
yeah, yeah, and that it's like if you adopt this attitude, you can defer the responsibility of your own problems. When, yeah, from my like experience going there, I think acknowledging an higher power doesn't take away from your own responsibilities.
Yeah.
You can acknowledge that and still be aware that things are up to you. What it does, this is hard for me to put in words. What do you, Ian? What do you think?
Well,
A
it's
power
very
does?
interesting because I would have thought the exact same thing before I went. I was, you know, quite atheist, and I really thought religion was pretty BS and believing in God, you know, it was a bit of a wank. But going there, it wasn't like that at all, and it wasn't like I can keep drinking because, you know, God will fix it. It was more like I thought so little of myself that I was only able to gather the courage by believing, you know, in a higher power. And that's what, you know, kind of got the ball rolling. And, you know, for a lot of people, it did really, like, there were lots of people who had been sober for absolutely ages. And, I mean, obviously that didn't come from a higher power, that came from their own sense of willpower. But I think the point of the meetings is to make you feel all right. And I think often that's the first step to overcoming your addiction, to overcoming, you know, a shitty spot in your life, to overcoming alcoholism, is to feel better about yourself. And I guess a way to do that for a lot of people who didn't have anything whatsoever was to give them something to have, some kind of hope to have.
Yeah, I think it takes you out of yourself a little bit, which is a really helpful way to start healing.
Yeah.
You know, if it's because it's just like, I think it can be too daunting when it's just if you're just stuck in the mindset of this is me, this is me, this is me, this is all about me. I'm destroying myself. Why am I doing this to myself? I mean, you are, and overall you will have to get yourself out of it. But when you take yourself out of that and be like, okay, there's something more than me going on. You know, I'm part of something bigger. Kind of, I'm part of this. It can be. I'm just part of the universe. You know.
Yeah.
That I've got another text in. That helps you just to start. You know, with the process, and it's no longer as daunting. Thanks for the text in though. The text number for those who are interested is 0448856416. And I've got another text in here off my personal phone. I'll just read it out. Sometimes reference to the higher power, to leave it in the hands of a god or fate, is just humility before the human experience. Some of our suffering is out of our hands and we should acknowledge. But of course, I wouldn't suggest relying on fate. You've got to grind to get green, as it were.
That was a really good text.
That was a pretty good text. I think that's what I was kind of trying to articulate as well. So thank you for that, Brick. Yeah, because I mean, you can say it's your willpower, but like a lot of the shit that happens to you in your life, that wasn't your control.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of it is, like you said before, taking you out of yourself. You know, like, it's all well and good to say, oh, you know, you should just man up and have a bit of willpower or whatever. But I think a really great example is one of the stories last night was this young man who we could actually really relate to. He seemed in his early 20s, much like us. And he was saying, you know, oh, I've been alcoholic for a while and I felt shit about myself, like absolutely incapable, ruin everything I touch. And a friend, you know, a close friend of mine or a relative asked me to babysit this young girl. And, you know, he was terrified, absolutely terrified. He was like, you know, I'm going to fucking wreck it. Like, I wreck everything. I can't do anything right. But this friend really needed him because she couldn't get anyone else. So he had to do it. Much against his own will, he had to do it. But then he had an absolutely great time, nailed it, you know, had fun with the kid, did a really good job, and felt really good about himself afterwards. So I think that's a great example of how, especially when you're down in the dumps and things aren't going the right way, your own opinion of yourself is often really inaccurate. So it kind of helps to remove yourself from the situation a little bit. Not saying, you don't have any responsibility or anything. I think people are well aware. I don't think you go to an AA meeting and suddenly realize, oh, I don't have any responsibility. This is great. I think everyone in the meetings are very well aware that they will have to put in their own personal sacrifice to get there. But I think a great way to get into a better mental state was to
Yeah,
focus less on your own opinion.
that's it. That's it. I agree. I agree with what you're saying there. I think it helps. It just helps you get out of your own mental state, which isn't actually being productive in any way. It's just lying to you. It's bullshitting you. It's making you feel worse about yourself, and it gets you out so you can start getting better.
Yeah, and I don't think that a higher power necessarily means a god or anything like that.
It can just be part of the fact you're in the universe. I think
Yeah.
that there's like 7 billion people and there's something more going on.
Yeah, or you can even believe that a higher power is just yourself. Like, you've got your own opinion of yourself, and your higher power is, what you're capable of, or the person that you can be, or your own willpower. It was really, by higher power, they didn't necessarily mean anything specifically. They just meant something that can help you that was bigger than what you thought you had. It was just about giving you a bit more and empowering you and giving you more than you thought you had.
Yeah, I think that helps a lot of people, not just people, Alcoholics Anonymous or like with addictions, like even just going about your day-to-day life. I think it just helps you move along, realizing that you're kind of there's something more than you. It helped, and I think a lot of people can find that in their work or their passion, something that is actually more than them, and it helps them to live.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. I guess one of the ironies of AA is they've got these sort of 12 traditions, which are kind of like rules.
The 12 steps. The 12 steps.
No, but then they've also got 12 traditions, which is like on the next banner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and one of them was that they can't advertise themselves, and that was for, I guess, the risk that they would, change their morals or their motives or their method for money or prestige or something like that. So they actually don't, as part of their dogma, they don't advertise themselves whatsoever. And I think that, unfortunately, means that a lot of people don't really know about AA, much like us. We didn't know much at all about AA. All their opinions of AA are just, from secondhand from, like references in TV shows or movies or what people say about it. So I think a lot of people don't really understand what AA is all about. And I think it's really fantastic. And I think I would recommend a visit. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting. It was interesting, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think as I was saying before, that I saw posters for other meetings such as food addicts. I think it was like low income earners.
Yeah.
Queer and bi support groups. I think it was one just for lonely people as well.
Oh, really?
So there's a lot of support groups.
Yeah, that's really amazing.
That's really positive. I think that's really nice.
And it really, even within the alcoholic rehabilitation groups, it really varies. Like one woman was saying when she first tried AA, she was a bit skeptical because the session that she happened to walk in on happened to be a meditation session about AA, and now she goes to the queer session because she just finds that's what works for her. So it's really varied, and they, no matter what the method is, they all want the same thing. They just want the best for you, the best for anyone who walks through the door, and I think that's really amazing.
Yeah, I agree. It was an interesting trip to the field.
Yeah, and I will actually probably continue to go to AA just as a form of personal therapy, I guess.
Interesting. So, yeah. After AA, just to change the subject now and keep moving, I went to Q&A.
Yes.
Different vibe. Different vibe completely.
Yeah. So what was the topic for debate at Q&A?
So there was just 5. There was a few MPs and a few senators. I can't remember the names. Doug Cameron, Diley, and a few others. I think it was like the vice. I don't know what the leader for the Greens. This is so embarrassing not knowing all these, like these MPs and politicians that aren't like
I
the
think
cabinet.
they're pretty like B grade politicians.
They are, yeah. Look, they were B-grade politicians, to put it bluntly. And they talked about a few things. Q&A is cool because, like, you get to ask a question from the audience, but you had to have pre-written a question and send it in to the Q&A producers, and then they tell you if you're going to read a question out. So, unfortunately, I didn't get to read a question, but if I went again, I would definitely try to read a question.
Oh yeah, fair.
So, they talked about the Turnbull government. It's like one question was like, Malcolm Turnbull's been in government for a year and nothing's been done. What's happening? Blah, 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 blah. And then the answer was like, give him time, blah, 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 blah. It's just like, okay, this was pretty useless. And like another person was just saying like, he's still just, pretty much running Abbott's government and Abbott's plans. And he's just a figurehead for the Liberal Party. Then another issue that was talked about was gun regulation. So, Roddy Nibley, you'd be interested in that, which one of the MPs, I think she was for the Libs, was pro guns, and she came from Bendigo in Victoria, and she basically wanted like weaker gun enforcement laws, but it was met with pretty strong opposition, and her points were not valid at
I mean,
all.
yeah, how can you justify wanting more guns in society? Like, how do you go about saying that?
She was just saying it's like this activity that, brings together people. Like, basically, it's like a cultural activity that increases community spirit. Like, because she was like, I go shooting with my son, and it's a great tradition, and I think a lot of people, would enjoy going shooting with their friends and family in a safe space. Sure.
Yeah.
Agree. I've gone hunting with people. It does bring you together, and it's a really fun thing to do with people. But no more guns. Like, let's keep the gun laws strong. And that was pretty much what the opposition of the debate had to say.
Yeah, I mean, surely you can, replace, shooting stuff with, I don't know, basketball or something. Like it does not have to be gun related.
Does it have to be shooting?
Yeah, and the fact that basketball doesn't kill as many people.
I know.
Plus.
But people who like guns, it's like it just has to be shooting because that's so damn good for them. They get so much out of it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That was a bit. It was a disappointing episode, I think. And I just wanted to go because I'd never been in the studio audience before,
Okay, fair
which
enough.
was a fun experience.
Fair enough. So it sounds like that's the complete opposite of AA, where at Q&A they talk about big issues and don't really say much.
Don't really say much.
But in AA they talk about absolutely minuscule issues, but say a lot.
Say so much. Say so much. There's so much behind the words,
Yeah.
isn't there? It's like it's like people's lives.
Like
right there.
one guy was saying that he'd been, I think sober for something like 38 days, like, counting day by day.
Yeah.
And he was saying that the cherry blossoms bloom, every time on a street. And this was the first year that he noticed them and really appreciated them because he was just so maggot all the time. And he was like that, and that was really amazing. I just thought that was really cool to see the cherry blossoms bloom. And what he's saying isn't really that important. Like, I like the cherry blossoms. But what he's, saying behind that was really amazing, that he was so grateful for this, change in life and really grateful for everything that's happened and that he's going to keep with it. And that was really cool. So that's quite the contrast.
Yeah, it really
to
is.
Q&A.
Oh man, it really was. What do you guys think? It's 10:30 a.m. We usually finish now, but the next show hasn't come in. So
Once again,
they might have just dogged their time. The number is 0488564416. If you have any thoughts on Q&A or AA, please let us know.
Or if you have any suggestions for next week.
Yeah.
We were actually thinking of just spitballing, just tossing around ideas.
Well, basically,
Don't get your panties in a knot.
I was
so to say.
I was on meetup.com, and for those of you who don't know what Meetup is, go check it out right now because it's fabulous.
Right now.
Meetup is a website where strangers come to meet up and do a particular activity or talk about a particular topic, and it's welcome, invites everyone, and it brings together strangers basically who don't know how to make friends and meet people for the thing they want to do. So it's really quirky and weird and interesting, but good.
And it's very, very varied. Like,
And it's free. It's free. It's all free. It's all free stuff.
there's really tame stuff. Like, there was a board games meetup, and there's also some pretty hardcore stuff.
Yes. So I was browsing it to look at what possible meetups the Truth Pill could examine for you guys. And we came across the board games meetup in Central, the Laughter Club, which is a meetup where you go practice laughing and you just laugh and it makes you feel good. The one we were definitely going to is the UFO meetup.
Yes.
Discussing
Yes.
discussing what else is out there. That's very interesting. Also, what was it? The Thrill Seekers.
Yep. Which was cross dressing, where guys who don't know enough people who are into cross dressing to do it with their friends do it with strangers.
So you go to a meetup and cross dress.
Yep. And one of the, in my opinions, very intense ones was a naked male party. You just go and everyone's male and you're all naked. And
Yeah.
and they're all strangers, and that's the point
Yes.
of the party.
And it says no sex.
But I mean, there's
Bullshit.
yeah, there's
But
good.
then it also said afterwards, like, you are free to do what you want after the meetup. So I think we all know what goes on at that meetup. Yeah, and I think I mentioned last week, I went to a meetup in Berlin, a meditation meetup, which was a group meditation
Yeah.
in a guy's apartment. Interesting
Was-
crowd.
was it cool?
It was interesting.
Did he want money though?
He didn't want money. He didn't want
Ooh,
money. He just
interesting.
wanted to share the practice of meditation.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, so we were actually thoughts and opinions on this, guys. We were thinking of going to Thrill Seekers. We were gonna cross dress, go to a cross dressing party, and just kind of tell you guys a little bit about the cross dressing Sydney scene that you may not know about.
I don't know anyone that knows about it.
No, and that's what the whole point about this show is, getting to the truth.
Yeah, meetup for me is so fascinating because it's all these different aspects of like Sydney culture going on. There's so many weird, quirky things and people, and I just see it and I'm like, I want to try it all. I want to see what all these people are about. I just want to know,
Yeah, it could, especially after AA. That was really. I mean, I didn't know what to expect, but I didn't expect much. I didn't think I'd
Yeah.
be moved. But I was. It was really cool, and I'm really glad I went. So maybe we could get into cross dressing.
We've got a few more texts in. There's one here. Great show, boys. I think it's interesting to look at the place that AA has in pop culture. Please discuss.
Yeah, that is actually a really good point that you've raised. So, like I was saying before, it's actually in their own sort of code of ethics that they can't advertise themselves or promote themselves because then they might get corrupted or change their method for money or to change their image. But that unfortunately means that the only things you really hear about AA are, I wouldn't say bad things, but definitely not from people who are trying to promote AA. It's kind of the butt of the joke often in, movies and stuff. Or it's kind of used as like a way to deprecate someone's character, like in a TV show, like, oh, you should go to AA. Like, you're such an alcoholic. But it wasn't like that at all, because the truth is, I guess, less funny.
No,
Or-
that's the truth is it's an addiction.
Yeah, but I mean, AA itself, the truth
Oh.
is that it's just a support network.
Yeah, it's just a support network.
So I think its place in popular culture is it's quite undeserved, and I think it it is in a way looked down upon, and I think even though I do plan to go to AA somewhat regularly because I find it very therapeutic, I think there would be a lot of people who, if I said I go to AA, they'd think a lot less of me, and I think that just stems from the fact that AA can't stick up for themselves. They can't say anything, and they won't say anything. To just keep the integrity of the program.
Yeah, but it's good that way.
It is good that way, yeah,
But
absolutely.
people won't know about it and maybe get the wrong idea. But once you go to it, you'll really be, looking for it and be making that decision to actively go to it and actively looking for help, which will benefit you, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if it isn't your thing, I mean, it was free. And it's such a small amount of time. It really doesn't matter. So I really would recommend people check it out. I think the popular opinion of it is quite flawed and incorrect. And even just judging by, talking to a couple of my mates about my experience, like a lot of them really didn't understand, weren't willing to understand, or just, kind of really brush it off. And I don't think that's really fair. So I think its place in pop culture is unjust.
Yeah, I think someone might say to you well, you've went there, but you're not an alcoholic. You're, using this for your own personal benefit. What would your response be to that?
Well, surely everyone's there using it for their own personal
Yeah.
benefit. And a lot of people there, I mean, like we were saying before, were actually sober and had been sober for a long time, but they stayed for the support group. And, AA, like there was someone there who was a drug addict as well, like getting off drugs. So it wasn't specifically alcohol. And then, a huge amount of it wasn't even alcohol; it was mental health. Like one of the guys there, he was saying how he was always involved in people's drama, and that caused drama for him, and he was just addicted to it and stuff. And even though alcohol was a part of it, it definitely wasn't the problem. The problem was his own mentality about things and how he was going about fixing himself and his own mentality. So I think everyone who has a desire to improve their mental state has a welcome place in an AA meeting.
Yeah, and when you go, you realize it's really refreshing to hear people not talk about their successes
Yeah, absolutely.
and how great they are and how they're trying to get this job and how their job's fucking great and they're making
Yeah, because that's what the rest of the
XYZ
time is
dollars.
like.
That's what everyone else, at our age is talking about. I've got another text in. This one is from, I'm not sure. It says, Ian Kane would be the ugliest drag queen on Oxford Street.
Yeah, that's actually somewhat accurate.
I think that is accurate,
I-
but I'd like to see it.
thanks, Chuck Berry.
Another text in as well. You should do an underground Sydney tour. Yesterday they discovered an old railway station, which is now an underground lake under museum station. What?
Yeah, that's actually true. There's actually a movie about it. It's actually a really cool movie. It's called The Tunnel, and this is how the movie was funded. You could buy, like, frames of the movie, and then, so, like, I paid for this frame of the movie, and some people, give $100 and pay for, a certain amount of frames of the movie. So heaps of people got together and paid for this movie. And it's a local movie, made in Sydney by people from Sydney. And it's pretty cool. And it's a pretty spooky movie. It's a bit of a horror movie. But yeah, so there's underground tunnels around Sydney. A lot of them are like old train tracks, or they were like, bomb shelters and stuff from the war. And yeah, and one of the big cabins is flooded. And I think it's under St. James, not museum. And it's called St. James Lake.
Wow.
And there were actually plans to siphon the water out when we were going through a drought. Because there's huge amounts of water, like it's, a massive lake to siphon the water. But those plans were actually dropped very suddenly without reason. So there's actually quite a few conspiracy theories about that.
So there's an underground station underneath the train station. This is bizarre.
Yeah, yeah.
What the hell?
I don't think you can do tours. I actually think it's illegal to go down there. I know that City Rail owns the blueprints, but will only give it out if you apply for some kind of permission, like you're a documentary maker or you're some kind of engineer who wants to examine the foundations. But I don't think you can just go down. But that's
That'd
a
be
good point.
interesting. I'd be up for that. Maybe we just don the high vis.
I think it's actually really dangerous because I think a lot of homeless people go down there in the winter when it's cold to get some kind of shelter. So I think it can be quite dangerous.
Because of the homeless people.
Or actually getting lost is a really big one because, we can't access the maps and there's no lights or anything. So you can actually get lost quite easily.
Sounds fun. Sounds like an adventure.
It sure does.
Yeah. There's that sewer you can go in underneath Cooper Park at Bondi Junction, which I haven't been in, but I remember someone was telling me about that, and that goes pretty deep. I don't know how far that goes, but they said it was spooky.
Yeah, that sounds pretty spooky.
And there was that case of those people who used to bodyboard in the sewers at Maroubra. When it was storming, you could bodyboard and go down it and come out, except one person went down one and it was chained up. The sewer was chained up at the end and they drowned.
Oh my God.
Which is pretty effed up, to be honest. And it was like a kid. I'm going to try and get that story up right now. Scary. So you got to be careful in sewers. You really do have to be careful.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually just got a Snapchat. It's one of my good mates. There is a depiction of the Illuminati triangle above his head with radiating purple lines from this Illuminati above his head. He looks somewhat exasperated in his expression, and the caption is, "When you're getting your weekly truth pill." So thanks very much for that Snapchat.
Yeah, thanks for the Snapchat. Thanks for texting. It doesn't look like the next show is coming.
Again,
Maybe they've given up.
maybe that's another truth we're going to get down to the bottom
Why
of.
are those two guys not coming? They were so energetic and enthusiastic at the start of the semester.
Yes, they were.
They had their laptops, their notes,
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
What happened?
Actually, a lot of people on Surge are kind of like are asking for people to fill in
Well,
their
it's that
shifts
time of
and-
the semester, isn't it?
Yeah.
The stress of assignments.
all that kind of stuff. So, understandable.
Your extracurricular commitments get pushed to the side.
Good thing for our listeners, the truth is our main priority.
Good thing I prioritize this more than my grades, as it takes up my Monday nights and my Tuesday mornings.
Yeah, yeah. Good
And
thing
a
I have
lot
no
of-
friends to go to, so I'm just happy to sit here.
Well, that's it, bro. The show is more than us. The show is more than us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that underground tour is interesting. I think we have to go somewhere and sneak in at some point. So something.
To sneak into
Just for the
something,
sake of-
or the underground tunnels.
Just not the underground tunnels, but sneak into something for the sake of it.
Yeah, actually, this is very interesting. But the Queen Mary building, which is now student accommodation, for 11 years it was abandoned. I think it was a nursing residency before that, and also has some patients. And for 11 years it was abandoned, and people used to break in, myself included, used to break in, and it was seriously like really, really spooky. It was this giant building. If you guys don't know what it looks like, it's like 13 stories or something, and it's very long corridors, and it was really crazy. Like there were old pianos and just smashed furniture, and you'd find a lot of syringes. So junkies would go there to shoot up. So that was quite interesting. But unfortunately, or fortunately, it was bought by Sydney Uni and renovated into the student accommodation it is now.
Yeah, where is that?
It's near the colleges.
Like on City Road or like more Redfern side, like Abercrombie Street.
Near the hospital, so near Camperdown Way.
Oh
Or
yeah,
in
okay.
Camperdown,
So it's
yeah.
like keep going past the colleges, the hospitals behind them, isn't it?
Yep.
Interesting. Great. Sounds cool.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Well, we can't go there anymore.
Well, we could, but it'd just be pretty boring. It would just be
It'd be
dorms.
students.
Yep.
Student dorms. That had no reason not to. Student dorms can reveal a lot once you get deep. Once you get deep into anything, Brian, there's always more, isn't there? There's
Oh, really?
always more to scrap.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Zach.
Like, for example, like Scientology, like that was interesting, but like Louis Theroux spent 3 years in Scientology. There's always more.
Really?
Yeah.
3 years?
Yeah, well, he spent 3 years researching it to make his film.
Wow.
So there's always more with these little things, isn't there?
Yeah, what a gronk. Yeah. That film's actually come out.
Have
so-
you, yeah, I really want to see it. I haven't seen it yet.
No, neither. Yeah, we should watch it.
We have to watch that. So sneak in somewhere, thrill seekers.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to go to that meetup,
The UFO meetup.
the UFO meetup,
Well-
and the board games meetups. If there's anyone out there who wants to join us, let us know because we'd love for you to come along, especially to that board games meetup.
Well, actually, aliens is a special topic that Zachary and I have been saving for a rainy day. So we'll bust out the UFO talk.
Oh, that's
at some
coming.
point.
That's
Yeah,
coming.
keep tuning in.
What do you think about? Well, I'll
Yeah,
just.
feel free to text in about what you would like us to do. If it's cross dress or go to UFO meetups.
I've heard that the drug DMT can help you make contact with aliens.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think you're just tripping really hard. I mean, I don't think there's literal aliens that talk to you because you're doing drugs. I don't think there are aliens out there who's cool enough to do drugs. Let's go hang out with him. I think you do the drugs and you think you talk to aliens.
Right. Might not be the portal.
No, it might not be the portal, but you'll think it is, and isn't that all that matters really?
Might be important for the research.
It may well be
Episode in.
important for the research.
Very well might be important to the research. Great. Do you want to wrap up?
Yeah. I think we should.
Yeah. I don't have much more to add today. I've got some classes to get to. We've all got assignments to get to. You've got assignments to get to. You're in week 8 now, so I hope you're staying on top of your shit.
Yeah, and just I guess it is now particularly relevant, just to echo what I've been saying before. Now that stresses are huge and all that, if you do feel like you can't talk to anyone, or you're feeling shit, or you really hate yourself a bit, go to one of these meetings. It's free therapy, it's free counseling, and you do feel a lot better afterwards. I'd just recommend it.
I would as well. And if anything, we can impart some wisdom to you. Just whatever you want to do, go do it. Whatever itch you've got to scratch, go do it.
Yeah.
If it is thrill seekers, go do it.
Yeah.
It is. Just last text in. I think you should talk about love because I've heard it exists, but I've never experienced it. Sad face. Oh, that's a conspiracy in itself because I've never experienced it either. So I don't know. Ian,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've experienced love. So, you know.
you can talk about
I'll talk. Yeah.
the mystery of love.
The mystery of love. Well, you know, love's all right. It's pretty good.
that's it. That's all you've got. That's all you've got for this listener.
Yeah. Oh, well, also sucks to be you, I guess. Like, that sucks.
Yeah.
But you know what? Keep trying. Risk it for the biscuit if you believe you can achieve.
I think it was the Greeks who said there's like 6 types of love. Yeah.
I have no idea.
The 4 types of love, Greek style. There's like, it's like platonic love,
yeah.
romantic love. I don't know. So I remember a guy I met traveling told me about this once, saying there was the different types of love and they're all as important as each other. So you shouldn't get focused on romantic love. Like the love of your family and the love of your friendship is just as important.
And you know what I always say? I always say that you should really focus on yourself, sort yourself out, and everything else will fall into place after that.
I think that's true.
So I think you should focus first on being happy as a single
You
man
gotta
or
love
woman.
yourself before you can be loved.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's it.
So if
That's
you,
it,
if
Anonymous.
you're down in the dumps about, no one loving you, just, make yourself a happy man or woman as a single person and it'll all work out.
Yeah. All right. Now, to play you out, no requests. So, another album. What should it be? This is tough.
Yeah, it is a bit tough.
Uh,
What about Teenage Dream by Katy Perry?
just the song?
No, I think that's a whole album.
That's an album?
I think so.
Well, let's just play. We don't have to play music. We can play some audio.
Okay. What are you feeling?
Might play an excerpt from a podcast I enjoy.
Oh, a podcast you enjoy. Okay.
Do you listen to the Joe Rogan podcast?
I actually have a lot to say about the Joe Rogan podcast.
What do you have to
I don't
say?
particularly like it.
You're not a fan.
I'm not a fan. I have a lot of negative things to say about the Joe Rogan podcast.
What? Tell me.
I think that it often really plays up this whole sort of trippy aspect and just tries to appeal to the stoner in you, and I find it very pseudo intelligent.
I would agree that there is a bit of pseudo intelligence going on there, and that if you're like a bit of an idiot, you may listen to the people on there and think this is fact, but these guys are just comedians, and they talk a lot of shit. So you got to be aware of that. But I would say that there's some practical advice.
Okay, well,
to
that's
be
fair
listened
enough.
there. All right. So let's play.